What happens when you put a career-focused woman with 2 kids trying to balance home and work life in a room with a microphone? Lots of laughter, tears, and great advice. Welcome to 2 Kids and a Career. Thank you so much for tuning in to the very first episode of 2 Kids and a Career. I'm Jill Devine, and I'm just beaming. I mean, my cheeks hurt so much from smiling because this is something that I've been working on for quite some time, and it's finally coming together. First, let me tell you about what I do and a little bit about my family. So I am a radio personality, and I am a wife, and I am a mother. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter and a 4-month-old daughter. So I'm definitely trying to figure out life with a career that I'm very passionate about and family life and being a wife and being a mother. And so that's kind of what this podcast is all about. But how it all really, really started, I, like most new moms, you don't really know what to expect when you have a baby and you're given advice. Some of the advice you welcome and some of it you're like, okay, thanks, you can keep walking. But I just never felt like some of the advice I was given was what I was experiencing. And here's an example. We have a dog. Her name is Apple, and she was and is still our baby, but the world revolved around the dog. And I know people made fun of us sometimes for the way we treated her, and she was our world. And I never thought that I would be that person who didn't have my kids and my dog as equals. And that's a whole nother episode. We'll get into that later. But anyway, bringing the first daughter home, I'm on maternity leave. And I remember at one point thinking, I just want to go spend time with my dog. I don't want to take care of this baby. And I'm not talking about forever, just talking about in that moment. But I had never heard anyone say anything like that. And I thought I was the crazy one. I thought I was messed up because I wanted to go cuddle with my dog instead of my daughter. And that was a really, really hard feeling. And it wasn't until I talked to a couple people that I realized those are normal thoughts. But I wish I would have known those were normal thoughts. So I started thinking about these things as I was still on maternity leave with the oldest one. And then when I got back to work with her, I still kept thinking about these things. And I was wondering, why aren't we having these conversations with our closest friends or our mothers or our sisters or our aunts? Like, why aren't we having these really tough conversations? And it's because they are tough conversations. And sometimes you don't want to talk to someone who knows you as well as they do, because you're afraid of judgment, or you just feel more comfortable with someone. Again, it goes back to judgment. And so I just kept thinking, what can I do? What can I do to make a difference? How could I help other new moms? How can I help other women just in general? And I started putting together some different plans. All right, here's what I want to do. I want to have these tough, honest, uncomfortable conversations, but also have fun with it too. Like, have fun, funny, silly conversations and let other women know you are normal. That's normal. So then I started reading the book from Rachel Hollis, Girl, Wash Your Face. And a lot of episodes are probably going to talk about that book and her follow-up book, Girl, Stop Apologizing. And it really, really motivated me to do more and to know that I wasn't alone in wanting to talk to others. And so that's how 2 Kids and a Career came about. But what's also interesting is when I was on maternity leave with the second girl, you look at social media and I started seeing a lot of stuff on social media that it just kind of was screaming my name, like, Jill, you got to get this podcast going because this is happening. And there was so many examples of, yes, you got to do this podcast. And one that I'll bring up, and I don't have the actual post on my phone. I don't have my phone right next to me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I'm not going to get this 100% right. But here's the gist. So a girl I know, her son is around the same age as my daughter, the oldest one, so 2.5. And so when I was on maternity leave with my youngest daughter, who's 4 months old, so not that long ago, she posted something from a year ago. She posted a status update and said something along the lines of she wanted to post this status update a year ago, but she was fearful of being judged and being shamed. So she didn't, but then she got the courage to do so. Basically, she wanted to help someone else. And so what it was, her son, when he was about 1, she had left a cup of coffee on the counter, and, curious 1-year-olds, they'll get into anything. And so he grabbed the coffee and ended up burning himself. They had to go to the ER, and thankfully the burns did not end up being too awful. They were still awful enough that he had to be medically treated. And she said she had so much guilt, and I can only imagine. I mean, your child stubs their toe and you're like, oh, that's the most painful thing ever. And her son is in the ER. So she said she had all this guilt. She thought if she even put it out on Facebook that they were in the ER because of this, people would just judge her. People would say how bad of a mom she was. And then she did say nobody did judge her or shame her. She wanted to make that clear, but she felt like she needed to get this out. I read that, and it was a bigger catalyst for me to get this podcast going, because so many of us women do that. We are afraid of being judged, and we are afraid of being shamed. And so we aren't our true selves. And I applaud her for coming out, even if it took a year, to say that this is what happened. Because listen, when you have a kid and they're 1, like I said, they're curious. And whether it's the coffee or the stairs or that toy that's up high, it could happen to any one of us. So judging and shaming is going to get us nowhere. And this is something that we're going to talk a lot about. We're going to talk about judging and shaming. We're going to talk about why that's happening. We're going to talk about our mommy fails. We're going to talk about our mommy accomplishments. That's what Two Kids and a Career is all about. I want this to be an open forum for everything. There's going to be tons of guests that I have on. I am not an expert in everything at all. So there are going to be some things that I need to turn to someone else about. I just want us to be a community. I want one another to know that it's okay, that what you're doing is okay. We all make mistakes in our lives, but we have to pick one another up. We have to make one another know that it's okay. And how do you learn from it? And so that's what I want to do. I just want to help you. I want you to help me and just have a conversation. And I really, really hope that someone listening, every single new episode that comes out, someone gets something from it. So that is really what Two Kids and a Career is all about. It's all about those hard and tough conversations, the uncomfortable conversations, the proud moment conversations, all of it. I mean, maybe you don't have a person to have those conversations with, so I'll be your person. Or maybe you're looking for some advice, and maybe I'm not your person, but one of my guests, they're your person. So I really do appreciate you giving me the time. I appreciate you giving my guests the time and giving Two Kids and a Career a chance. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and if you're feeling really generous, write me a review. And don't forget to join me next week for a new episode of Two Kids and a Career.